Thank you.
Oh, Carol.
Gonna text
Bill-
you remind me that. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Water quality gear.
I see
Yes.
that the American 250 has a picture of
It is
that
not.
place out there. I didn't see that.
What's up, buddy?
before.
Isn't that
Great.
cool?
Yeah, It's really
Is that
cool.
neat?
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
We got a $500,000 grant.
Yeah.
We had to display the American 250 and yeah,
No, I moved it and he moved it back.
yeah,
Mhm.
Jack helped a lot with it, Commissioner, I have to say. He,
We're ready to go live. If everybody, oh, well, let's Pam get.
I'm good to go.
We're ready to go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the April 15th, Eyes of April, Tax Day, Jefferson County Water Advisory Committee meeting. We are called to order. Start with the determination of members' presence and existence of quorum. We have met our quorum requirements. Mr. Will Smith is phoned in. He was unable to attend today, as is Elizabeth Reardon, due to pressing commitments work. So I will open the floor, ask for public comment. There's no one here, and we're not taking comments from Zoom, but can you please tell me, Spencer, if there's anyone on Zoom? There's, where's it?
are we on YouTube now?
Okay. First order of business is the review of approved minutes from January, February, March that I can pull, Madam Secretary, circulated.
I think I gave everybody a copy. If you guys, January, February, and March. They are bare bones, so there should, other than spellings.
Move we approve all three as written.
Second?
I have one minor change to February for Kirsten Stolifer's name.
Mhm.
It's missing the H.
It is.
That's
Okay.
a minor change in it. That's the end of that's all I have then. That's a testament to our Madam Secretary's efficiency.
Well, and then I also noticed February 17th in member comment, I didn't put a space there, so we'll make those two typos and make those approved.
And I had one minor change to February 18th minutes, item 5, new business. That was just a typo. There was no invitation from Shepherdstown
Okay.
Council. That was an invitation from the town-run watershed organization. And neither of us could attend that due to scheduling conflicts. So let's just strike that. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
So no new business on February 18th.
Or at least that item wasn't relevant.
Yeah.
Correct.
However you want to handle it. Okay. Are there any other comments or discussion? I have a motion to approve and we have a second, motion to entertain a motion to approve with this minor amendments.
Second?
Favor? Okay, we are ready to dig into the big work plan. So I want to thank Dan for looking over the agenda and adding some very good comments about our work plan, because I think we've got it with the team here, got it scoped out of a roadmap, where we're going, what we're going to do, and how how the timeline to meet it. And so we can roll our sleeves up and go. I don't know that everybody has it, but Margaret circulated. And I don't know if we can pull it up. I can send it to Spencer. The
I have-
testing and studies, and we can pull it up.
I have 3 extra copies if anybody would like.
Oh, you
Have it on
have
my-
extra copies?
I have
of the-
3, yes.
Okay.
This is of what Margaret sent
I
out.
sent you
Margaret,
just,
okay,
just
all
an
right.
hour
I have a
ago or
copy
so.
of
I
that
don't know,
already. Thank
because
you, Margaret.
She merged everything.
So Kara
together,
and
so
Alexis need
that's the
one.
thought
Yeah,
of-
can I get one?
That's mine.
Oh,
That one.
Thought of how we are going to merge it, make presentable, and I was having a nice, oh, I'm sorry, one more.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
We had a little discussion to see if we could, ask AI to, give us some, pointers here as, you know, everyone, like everyone else, I'm training my documents to use AI myself at the same time.
And I've heard this rumor that every time you use AI, you go through a bottle of water. I think
Yeah.
that's fake news, but I don't know. Dan might know.
It's not very meaningful. It's not very meaningful. It's so place dependent. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's a generic average. It doesn't like,
Yeah.
but I'm open to anything that's going to compile, help compile, because it's going to get tricky quick to compile in real time. So I'm open to any approach.
That's my thought is that we've got great ideas, but it's big portfolio to work together on and how we can do so. Let's just go over quickly what the schedule is. Today, we're to continue working on questions, Roman numeral 1 and 2. May, guest speaker, June questions 2 to 3, live questions 3 to 4, August question 4 with wrap up. September speaker and October questions and presentation. And the presentation would be before the Jefferson County Commission, but in the interim, you're going to get some sort of a, I don't know if it's a draft document. We'll talk about what we want to put on the website in the interim, but I think it would be good to, I believe it would be good to let the county commission know where we're at in May.
So to be clear here, it's 2 questions per month on the agenda. The way we're thinking about this is the first one is a wrap up of, well, the second one on here, like for example, tonight, 2 is just our preliminary conversation and playing between it. And ideally, we're wrapping up number 1. So waiting for it to summarize. Guess it should also clarify, and my fault for not doing it. October is, we finalize it and put it together in a presentation, and then we're prepared sometime after the October meeting to present.
That's good. Good clarification. Okay, does
So-
anyone have, okay?
Yeah, so
Go
my
ahead.
other question is, do we have a speaker for May?
I was going to ask Mark Kozar to come if you thought that would be worthwhile. Senator Rucker has also offered to come, and I've heard her on WRNR. She has a little more context of what's going on, I think, interplay with the Commerce Department.
We have both
Or
of
there
them.
are other suggestions.
I think that's a great idea and kind of an outside the box. Mark Ozar's in the box.
Yeah.
Sam, what are your thoughts? I don't know, Mark, personally. Do you think?
Well, there's no better technical expert for this region on earth than Mark.
Would it be possible to have both of them?
That could be interesting. You know, in terms of our sort of like work order or scope of work, I think COSAR is more directly connected to that. I mean, obviously Senator Rucker has a leadership role and has a unique, important perspective. Also, Scott Shipe would be someone else to consider for a possible presenter who has deep knowledge of the history of water development and also very tuned into the challenges and opportunities we've got. So he could help at maybe it's May, maybe it's some other point in the future, but he's expressed a willingness to be here for us. Yeah, I think he actually was one of the original developers for CTUB, for example, when it came online. So deep history there.
It's deep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's another candidate.
What would be the goal of next month to have a more technical person or more of a legislative ally and supporter?
I think Mark would really fit really well into the hydrogeological
I
study.
think the
for Roman
technical
numeral 1.
Mark, I mean, that would
Okay, so
be,
we
I'd be
agree where
anxious
we're
to
at.
meet him, honestly.
Yeah.
He is he and Bob Denton are the premier hydrogeological specialists.
Yeah. But I think,
But Shipe would be very interesting for. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe Senator Rucker, we could, once we have all these kind of narrowed out, bring her in and getting some of her expertise from Charleston and her experience. I mean, she's tried to introduce some water bills and she's been working on this, especially with Delegate Funkhauser. and-
You know, Delegate Funko.
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah,
maybe both of them.
Yeah.
They both entered bills.
He's more context based.
In any case, I would love to have COSAR's eyes as well as Kurt McCoy and other USGS leaders, their review of this in a sort of whatever environment we can make it happen. But I would be much more comfortable with their just take on our products. Now, we're not there yet to give them something, but I think sooner the better to get COSAR. So I guess I would lean towards prioritizing that. Maybe start with them, see if their scheduling works. If not, then we move to another opportunity.
Okay.
Mhm.
Shall we dig in? This has been the work product of those in the room. So do we want to go, how would you like to approach this? Would you like to go line by line of those who contributed? I've got 14 pages. in front of me. So,
I think question one should be more of a broad over. More effective line by.
okay.
We covered line by line last time. So to be fair, the only input that I had was really to narrow down. Versus, the depth that Dan put into it.
Yeah. And that was my main takeaway too, is that more knowledge from Berkeley, you've looked at this more in depth, like integration as a neighbor's template would be helpful.
Well, to be fair, Berkeley County is just subdivisions with more than.
Okay.
And it's just testing that specific parcel. It's not a broader.
Not tested, requiring the developer and their engineer representative to have a groundwater report, not even a plan.
So does it require a study of that of that specific aquifer, even though it might be shared?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically. It's a pretty essential model. For better for worse, it's challenging to come exactly what you require with all the various permutations that are out there.
So I talked to Dr. Stubblefield this morning on WRNR, and he helped pass that policy, I think.
Okay.
And he used what he told me, now I'm probably the least technical person up here, so I'm just telling you what he told me. But he said that he used drought conditions as a basis for that policy. So I think there was, and you guys probably would understand it more than I did, but so he's very proud of that, and he has a deep water background. So he always asks me if we're gonna consider something in Jefferson like this, but
It's like the Appendix E in Berkeley County.
mhm. So
Yeah.
I told him we'd be talking about it today.
But generally looking at this section one, responses, I didn't see anything that was internally inconsistent or just completely at odds. There was a point of clarity that might be useful though so we're dealing with the first packet here, testing and studies is the section one. And then the subsection is distinguishing among uses when monitoring water resource, and that gets into what
Let
we're
me
doing.
find you where you're at.
So page, it's not
Sorry, I did
numbered,
not,
but,
yeah, I'm sorry, I did not know.
it's like, after the groundwater under the direct influence section, Roman numeral 2, distinguishing among uses when monitoring local water resources. And this is somewhat redundant with what we're looking at today. Or is this the material for, today?
I included question 2 because Daniel had sent something, you had sent something.
Okay, cool. In that
So-
case, then, and we'll get to that later then.
Okay.
I didn't see anything structurally inconsistent or at odds in section 1 then. It does seem to me to be a little bit, it's sort of strange though to be providing these engineering documents and groundwater association standards and best practices when it's not clear to me who in the county would be implementing this or how they would be using it. I mean, it's good protocol to lay, this is the best available approach, it's like bam, bam, bam. And when the karst amendment to the engineering standards comes out, as Dr. Denton mentioned, that we definitely will incorporate that, but until it's ready, it's not there for us to use.
Could you explain that a little bit? What
Well,
study?
yeah, so the American Society for Testing and Materials, ASTM, is sort of looked at as an engineering gold standard that everyone uses, including any consultant or, and I believe CTUB would use the same kind of basic protocols and and these kind of lay out basic best practices for groundwater testing and pumping. And so we cite these just to provide them to the county, like
Right.
these are the best practices.
Okay.
And that's fine. It's just, what remains unclear to me, and this is a larger, it's a question not limited just to section 1. How, like, who in the county can interpret those things and use those, and to what end? Like, we need to be honest about, like, there needs to be technical resources at the county level to
Right.
even interpret, ASTM D4043, like, who's going to use that? And are they trained to use that? So that's maybe a more higher level question, but in terms of the responses to this section, I feel like I didn't see anything inconsistent with this. Yeah, so I feel good about the basic structure of what we've got so far.
It's fact-based.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to run it through AI and see what I come up with in terms of a presentation. It's like, your AI, make me a PowerPoint out of this, please. And make it an executive level document and circulate that, but yeah.
I make a motion, we approve our responses to section 1, question 1, as written and compiled by Margaret.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I am noting it's, whoop,
And I need to note that I did provide updates. So what I did last time was I updated based on the conversation here. So I want to make sure that I've got you my most recent, the updates, which have been distributed via email. So with that amendment, I vote yes.
thank you, Dan, our train conductor. The trains are running on time.
Yeah, the good team.
Yep.
What Commissioner Mood was liaison here, but one of our first meeting was Bob Denton. And Bob Denton, I met him in 2011 when I originally joined the Water Advisory Group, and he's well known. He's probably one, I would say internationally, one of the top karst hydrological specialists in the country. And he was sat on the Water Advisory Committee for years until so much business was here. He said, I'll be a technical consultant because I need to do it myself. And he's not doesn't live in Jefferson County. His son does. But he's a big haver, and he is in the ASTM International Group, and they was tasked to lead the group that wrote this new standard that we are talking about. It's a karst mitigation standard. It's a pre-flight standard where you, a hydrogeologist, there's tests you do and you look, are there sinkholes? Are there impacts? And it's a whole set of criteria that you check off for a developer, present to the county and to the municipality and the residents. We have done all these tests to show the impacts, mitigate the impacts in a karst, or make certain the karst is not affected and there's no water quality impact by this development.
So is it water quality and water quantity, or is it just quality?
It's
Well, the water
mainly quality,
availability.
but they do look at the quantity for the drawdown
Okay.
and how that affects.
Yeah.
I have his presentation. It's very, very large, but let me get that to you.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
It was on, I believe we have it on Zoom that you can listen to, but it'd be very helpful to have
Yeah.
the slides were so small, they were hard to.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
and
if
I
you can
think
share it
you
with
guys-
all of us, yeah.
And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we have bigger TVs now.
I
On the
noticed
sides,
last night,
not
yeah.
behind us, but at least on
Yeah.
the side, so it's a little bit easier for folks. I think we quadrupled in size, so.
He has offered to come back and be a consultant as long as he's on anything we want. So he can take a look at these as well.
Call
You might ask
if
both
you
of
use
them.
this version.
Maybe would,
did
I would
not
alert Bob that we were
see it,
having
so
this
I will-
meeting
but I
with
can do that.
Ozark comes because he
Oh,
may
okay.
want to listen in. They've been working together for years. Bob works on, and we've talked about this before. One of the reasons.
No,
for
I
this-
did.
The drive.
I did
to
use
this
it.
Standard.
That's the one I used. Yes, I
Is
did.
for large scale, say the financial markets do not want to invest in a 20 or 200 or $300 million project without knowing the study's been done. For their shareholders,
Yeah.
investors,
So it's like an international standard
it's an international standard and
that they have
it's
to.
there's a UN, it's been accepted and endorsed, so it's been endorsed by international organizations, NGOs as
And is there like federal requirements for it or proposed federal requirements that would kind of require them to do the study?
Study. I'm not aware of any federal requirements mandating that studies be done.
Oh,
But I have to ask Bob, who's, if in the United States it's been mandated that those studies be completed before, and it's typically specific to karst mitigation.
here, yeah.
I did purchase it and I thought I could print it so that we could share and look over it, but it did not allow me to print it. So
You did purchase like $190.
Yeah.
didn't you?
I did purchase it just so we had something to.
Yeah,
use.
if he will let me use the slides, and there's, I'm sure I can circulate the slides,
Yeah.
but put in them. We could tell people to go look at it on the website. I think it's probably copyrighted. It is copyrighted because you have to purchase it, so.
Yeah.
All right, so, with that said, Mr. Conductor, are we on to, technical question 2?
One at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, my responses, because this is a little down here, is basically pulled out of AI and then just really lean down to as simple as we need to respond to the time frame. You know,
Yeah.
test.
That's a great point, because these questions are huge, conceptually huge. It could be just an entire lecture for each one of these, and it could be a class for each one. So it's going to be up to us to crystallize. Yeah.
I find it's not particularly crystal.
Yeah.
Right now.
These are big questions. These are
Even
huge.
if it's, yeah, and I agree with you 100%. These are big questions.
These are big questions, yeah. And it's good. I mean, this is fine. It's fine. But I hope it'll be useful. So maybe Kara can give us some guidance on like, what is the, wheat from the chaff? Like, what is the useful part or not in
Mhm.
this kind of stuff? And that could help us home in.
Well, I mean, I think, once we ultimately go through these things, we could have policies at some point that we implement into the county. So what policies could be thrown into, the health department? What could be
Yeah.
thrown into, subdivision regulations or, so it's just deciphering, and we have all the players here, so feel free to speak up if you think they'll be useful or helpful. Your department.
In my perspective I can't speak for state agencies, but I've engaged with DEP extensively. And so collectively, I hope we'll get there.
I'll need your help and guidance. You guys are the experts.
Karen, you're actually maybe your best insight. The self-proclaimed least technical person.
Yeah,
So you just basically say,
yeah. It's nice.
and
Yeah.
we have to bring the language.
Yeah, you gotta, put in layman's terms for me.
So it helps me to have a framework to think about how to interpret, not just, I mean, we know the audience is county commission with the mindset of ordinance development ultimately, but only now I think it's sort of, we're backing into the ordinance space. We can be a little more explicit about like, this is it helps me to think about like the specific kind of applications. But let's just get into it, right? I mean, do you want to go question by question? What is there, like 7 of these things? It's 6.
No, 6.
I got 6, yeah. So first question on, do state agencies distinguish between uses when monitoring or evaluating replenishment of water in local groundwater and other relevant sources? What do y'all think? I mean, like it's West Virginia DEP is the regulator for such things at the state level. And then, DHHR has a role for the Safe Drinking Water Act. And those two things operate at the same. Are there other main entities that are regulating at the state level on this question? I think it's DEP and DHHR.
Those are the two big ones that come to my mind. There's a water development authority,
If
but
we can go higher for a second,
Yeah.
I'll pull some answers out.
Yeah.
In action. I read this as. do
Any state, any state,
agencies
yeah.
Start there and break it down
Okay.
and really sorting the wheat from the chaff here again, I pulled down 3 type water quality standards calibrated to a designated beneficial use. Payment monitoring targeted to a sector-specific pollution source, which is really not what we're looking at, and replenishment and suitability plan for different user categories. A lot of words. Big thing was the agriculture versus industrial. My world is commercial and residential developments. There's not a lot there even on a national basis. I pulled specifics out of it. Not even in the development stage, it's more. I'm already, you're gonna have to chime in on the feasibility or desirability.
Mhm.
I also think that we've got to think about, there is a federal standard, the waters of the United States, and whether or not, where those are, that's been an ongoing litigation between the
Right.
farmers and whether or not farmers, you have a perennial stream or a intermittent stream and
Mhm.
it trickles through your land, and whether or not you're, or farmers has fought it, that all of a sudden we're subject to a lot of the EPA standards on water runoff. That doesn't really affect this here. There are some federal regulations to look at.
Well-
Certainly Colorado and California are, I mean, my firm just, we represent that those areas are under a lot of allocation, strict rationing and allocation. They have different challenges.
Right. So I think this question, the scope of this is actually a little more narrow. It's like the subject of that statement is replenishment of water.
Mhm.
So it's not water quality as much. I mean, there's a nexus.
quantity.
Like more recharge?
There's a
Yeah,
nexus
more
because
research.
look, it's about concentration. And so when we get into like water quality pieces, like it's about the mixing zone and the concentration of contaminants that that triggers a violation or not of the Clean Water Act. But that's a secondary effect. I think the primary interest here is
Right.
replenishment of water. And in that regard, I mean, so the Western states, yeah, it's basically first in use, first in right. What is
Well,
the
there's a
phrase?
lot of legal, then you get tribal interests that have, there's been multiple settlements where people agree to use a certain amount of water, but then you don't have replenishment or the snowpack,
Mhm.
and then everyone has to change withdraw their allocation. But I really think this is really, to me, and you've talked about the gauges, that this really comes into the gauges and the monitoring
Yeah.
of what we have in the county, the drought, the evapotranspiration. And then for the usage, I mean, there are distinguished uses, and we know that DEP is working, USGS is working on a study for the DEP to do non-point sources in terms of agriculture and households. And so, I think the state agencies are distinguishing uses, but with this DEP study, we may see another study too. I mean, another allocation, household, residential, as well. They're starting to incorporate that into their measurements. But
Yeah, so in terms of if the scope is replenishment of, it's like recharge.
Yeah,
If the scope is recharge, then I would modify my draft response then because there is some they do distinguish between those.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna update my notes here and I'll because as you mentioned, the USGS attempt to understand non-point source dynamics, that's a big challenge, but that's ongoing work. But I think Daniel's right that at the national context would be helpful. And, we can point out that a lot of the authority for this is delegated to the states, almost always.
EPA.
And so we can make that general assertion. And that's where it's like justified to look at DEP because the Clean Water Act is a federal statute that is implemented by the states with the consent of EPA Region 3, Philadelphia.
Mhm.
So there's that.
Do they require wetland permits? I mean, any federal?
That's a good point. Now for dredge and fill, construction stormwater permits do require Corps of Engineers federal approval, and that's the 404 program under the Clean Water Act. And that's a federal nexus. So that's an interesting one because that's not just DEP at the state level, but that's specific to dredge and fill activities. It's not so much water recharge.
Or not.
Yeah, I think so. If we scope on this is recharge, understanding recharge dynamics, I mean, conceptually, there's an indirect link because dredge and fill does change recharge dynamics, but it's not a straight line. It's more of a dotted line.
Well, what I mean,
Yeah.
that's not.
I mean,
I can't think of what context.
yeah, I don't know. Is any? That might very well be an issue for a 500-acre data center development in Bennington, and of course, that's Berkeley. But that kind of thing would require, I think, a dredge and fill permit, because it's on wetlands. If it's defined as waters of the US under new WOTUS. So there's some uncertainty there. It gets tricky quick, but the main idea, I think you're right, start at the federal level, states have the authority for this. Maybe you could bring in some of the reference points for Western states as a counterpoint. I mean, that's sort of an interesting comparison, I think.
It's just provoking.
Yeah, it's context, right? And then in West Virginia, DEP and I guess we could say, investigations by USGS, even though it's a federal agency, but it's motivated by state research needs, right? So it's often driven by state coordination with either the county commission or DEP. They do distinguish between uses in terms of recharge in that regard. So yeah, that's a good update.
I think, we don't know yet, but would it make sense to incorporate the Commerce Department's rules about, the reuse of water by data centers for gray water? Is that something you would, it's a reuse, is it a recharge, or? I'm just throwing out there that may be way out left field, but we are seeing that some of these data centers are saying, I'm going to use this water, I'm going to reuse this water, I'm going to use gray water from a municipality, MSA municipality.
If I had to assume what they were getting at with this question, it would be data centers. I would think a large quantity user is what they're trying to get an answer for of
And that-
how are they going to quantify that water and replenish it, recharge it? That's my assumption. I have no idea though. Yeah.
Maybe folks can give me an update. My understanding is that Commerce's checklist for onboarding data centers has updated and includes a water availability and peak demand estimate. However, this is the key point. Those are not publicly disclosed.
That's my understanding as well.
And without that, I just feel like we could, I think
But
an
is the
appropriate thing to do would be
information
to
subject
request
to
that.
request by another government agency for review?
That's a great question.
So
If the county commission.
it may not be
requests-
subject to FOIA, like just an average public member, but
As
like,
of today.
And the other thing too is,
Hmm.
the elephant in the room or in the county is we don't know where they're gonna drop or, what location and what the prototype and what the plans will be. And so it would be nice to kind of have some of this on hand.
Mhm.
So, because so me solely as a loan commissioner acting probably just on my own, but I'd love your feedback, would be talking directly to Mr. Morris
Yeah.
if and when projects drop to try to understand the water issue, because one of the problems that Berkeley County residents and the Berkeley County Commission is having is they don't have these answers.
Right.
And so it's causing a lot of fear and unknown. And so trying to get those answers and trying to be specific and maybe presenting what we feel is a good policy position, good questions, framework for Jefferson County,
Mhm.
to maybe be a little more proactive instead of reactive.
Mhm.
Um,
That makes 100% sense to me, and maybe we could expand our response to this particular question to acknowledge that
as a case study.
as a case study, we could acknowledge that. I think that makes sense. And honestly, I'd be willing to add a new business item to follow up where we develop a very specific some specific guidance for county commission consideration, I think it's pretty obvious from the Berkeley County example that we need to be proactive as a county and, in terms of technical supports and needs I think that's in our lane.
It is.
So I think I'd be willing to consider that as a new,
Be fair, we
Agenda.
tried to be proactive and it got shot down last year.
Yeah, that's pretty.
we got to just do our
direct.
job, which is, I
Yeah.
think is in terms of data transparency. I think you're right. It would go a long way. For example, are you using a municipal water system or are you using a groundwater well? Great question. It matters for what you think about impact risk.
Right.
What's the peak demand for drought seasons?
Can you,
That
can
matters.
you please give us that information?
And even if so what do y'all think? Is that
No, I
an
agree. Those
appropriate
are
follow-up, new
Fair
business item?
questions.
Yeah,
I mean,
so moved.
I don't fully understand that. Say that again.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we add an item for new business where we develop specific guidance in a letter to the county commission to have the commissioners contact Commerce Department requesting transparency on water use for county commission planning. For anything proposed for Jefferson County. That may or may not be public information. We'd have to think through a little bit. And I know I'm adding a work item here.
Yeah.
But I think it merits it.
No,
I'm gonna
I
go with
like
one
that.
if You get a second.
Anyway, so that wasn't correctly worded, but that's the concept.
So maybe a framework check.
To be fair.
Yeah.
I'll second your motion.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. So we could essentially have a case study framework of information we would ask any future developer of X case study industry. So it would be, in this case, data centers, proposed data centers via HB 2014. So we could have it earmarked specifically for that type of development industry because of the state to local instead of local government.
That's how I would see it. Now, this would have to be something we would just submit to the county commission for their consideration at next meeting, right? We can't dictate how they will review this, but I think
I think one of the things that would be helpful is just asking questions, having, it's not a policy position, but hey, these are the questions that residents would care about. These are the things that, so having a framework of transparency, but just information. Because that's what residents, once these drop, that's what they care about most.
I think we could have policy questions for each of these numerals as we go through them.
Yeah.
So let me interject something that's kind of tangential. We have a schedule right now. Want to, and I'm not against this, but do we want to use this and our scope is to answer these questions.
Mhm.
That's our first scope. That's
Mhm.
what we've been tasked. Adding items to this is fine, but do we want to interject this into the May and hold the speaker or push everything back a month? Do we want to end?
Yeah, it's a great question because first things first, right? This is their scope of work. I think it could be very simple and compact. I don't think it'd be a heavy lift. So I think we could
propose
interject.
this. If we have one speaker next month for up to 45 minutes, that would provide 45 minutes to discuss.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect the calendar. And sorry for just getting logistic here.
Yeah, that's
No,
fine.
no.
And that would still allow us to stay on track with our
Allows
timeline.
everything- Well, it requires nothing to move, but it's an added item under old business next month for, simplify this a little bit. We'll call it data center questions, for lack of a better term.
And a lot of this is based on the questions we are being given
Mhm.
and directed,
Yeah.
but we're using a case study method with a new law that has since been
This
passed.
This becomes a practical use of these, in some ways, theoretical.
Yeah, okay. Do we need to vote on that motion that's been seconded and close that out, or what's the next step?
It's a
Yeah.
revision of the schedule, so
I just want to discuss, once we have these policy questions, let me talk about what the timing would be to, we finish Roman numeral 1, we finish Roman numeral 2. We have these policy questions. How do we want to have those policy questions be public? Or we want to wait till October, November?
What's the downside of them being public?
We could answer those two as we, if you're coming to the county commission, we could say, hey, we've answered these two with a couple slides. And we also we're taking some of this information and applying it to a case study for your review of questions to ask if and when.
Are you saying at the presentation time?
Yeah,
I
we
agree
could
with
just
that.
break it up because I think it's probably good to have this sooner rather than later. I wouldn't want to have these questions asked in October because I think we could see something before then. I simply don't know. Yeah, yeah. And so I just think it's good for us to have these publicly available. So that way, Mr. Morris is seeing, these are the questions we have. It's very transparent on our end. So we can at least be conveying that to them as they are potentially looking into approving.
That sounds right. And I would just offer as an addition that, the Commerce is collecting this information. It's really about data sharing.
It is.
They could benefit from it.
Yeah. And so we could frame it as just a collaboration and data sharing opportunity. You're right that FOIA does not apply. It was written out of House Bill 2014. The public shall not know these things according to state sunshine law. However, local government, planners, we need to be thoughtful about how, data sharing would be consistent with House Bill 2014 and that, not an attorney, but I think we could frame it very succinctly as data sharing.
Policy
They're already collecting that
recommendation.
information.
Yeah.
It's of public interest and it's within our scope. So, I'd like to front load that. Maybe we could even draft. I mean, I'm envisioning a simple one-page letter that goes from us approved on this date to the county commission for their consideration. And they essentially would take this and if approved, send it to Commerce. That's the kind of flow path I'm seeing. Is that consistent with your all's understanding?
Yeah,
And
and,
agree
and-
sooner than later.
yeah,
So I propose that today we complete our preliminary review of item question 2.
Mhm.
Next month, we plan the guest speaker. We'll also discuss a draft memorandum, for lack of a better
Yeah,
term.
yeah.
June will be conclusion of item 2. And then sometime early July, it'll be president sending answers to questions 1 and 2.
That sounds like a plan.
be great.
That's great.
And
Is that-
I think I would want this one pager that we send to the Commerce to be not, hey, we demand this. It's hey, can we have, these are the questions we will be wanting to know. If and when they're based off of what we've been going through.
The question I have logistically then, Stan, are you going to prepare?
Yeah, I'd be happy to draft something for review. I mean, clearly it's a starting place
Right.
for edits.
Right.
And I can get that I'll have that submitted to Mary before the packet is prepared for the next session.
Good.
And a quick question, just overhead. When the county, this is a checklist, the county commission goes, oh, great checklist, we're gonna ask the Commerce Department for it.
Mhm.
And the Commerce Department sends them sort of how much water is gonna be used, how much to recharge, what's the area. Does the county commission share that with the public, or is it confidential information? Is the Commerce Department thinking they're gonna want to give it confidentially to the county commission? I imagine other county commissioners are asking for this information. But,
That's a great question.
Cross that bridge when you get
Cross
there.
that
That's a
bridge
great-
when we get
Yeah.
there. Okay, so we have a motion, I have a motion on the floor from Dan, to amend our schedule, for May.
Motion by Than, second by me.
It's moved by Dan, second by you, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
And then to add into our schedule in where July off meeting, the president, and I will go with you,
Thank you.
will present to the county commission.
Sounds like a plan.
And we only have one July meeting, or I'm sorry, no, we have 2 July meetings. Sorry, we only have one June meeting.
If I'm in
So,
town.
yes.
Is the presentation for the memorandum
And,
Just for the
and
memorandum.
technical questions 1 and 2.
and presenting technical?
Because
questions?
by June, we'll have closed out 2.
Okay.
That's nice.
Okay.
Good.
Is there any discussion on the motion that's been seconded? All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Okay, all right,
Glutton for punishment, adding more work.
Yeah,
It's good stuff. This is good work. though.
it is.
I apologize in advance.
No, it's good.
Well, hey, we're filling in some of, we're coloring in some of the framework here with real case studies, so that's helpful.
Question number 2, I
Yeah.
think, under.
And just
number two.
one last point for question 1 here,
Okay.
just, I think this is a general point, and I want to make sure I'm thinking about this correctly. Just be aware that when we think about different types of uses, nothing that we propose in our framework for modeling and monitoring could supersede our county comprehensive plan, which identifies designated uses and some uses which are not designated uses. For example, groundwater extraction for sale is not a designated use in the county comprehensive plan. And so there's nothing that we can do in terms of monitoring, design, or testing studies that's going to supersede that. So I think we just need to be very careful about not backing into something that we don't mean to. So, nothing that we are proposing here. And I think this is an appropriate component to the answer for question 1. And I have some draft language there, which you can review and edit as you see
So I will
fit.
say Kara can agree with me or disagree. There's gonna be, before this thing becomes codified into any sort of law, there will be a lot of eyes on this, technically with the entire county on this. Nothing that we do as a body opens up that possibility.
Yeah, I think it's good to be explicit about that in this regard, just to be fully transparent and aware of those things. So I propose that language. You can,
And I will suggest that the development community will come in here and you'll get those questions and it'll be addressed.
okay, good. So this is a starting point for that.
So
Any-
what is our answer to number 1 then?
Well, the state agencies do distinguish between uses in this regard. And also as a note that in our county comprehensive plan, there are some uses are not designated uses. And so we can't create, guidance for,
Or appendix C where we have the use table.
right.
Appendix D, yeah.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can't, we just are aware that there are some things that are not designated uses in this county comprehensive planning, and therefore we have to respect that. That's it.
So I have to ask, Margaret, are you able to compile these comments? Comprehensive, consistent.
I'm gonna give it my best shot.
Yeah.
You guys will have to
Which is
proofread.
better than ChatGPT.
Fair enough. I just to make sure, because there's a lot of stuff being thrown out
Yeah,
there.
no, because that's what I'm gonna
And-
rely on some of this.
And this is a good start. Thank you for compiling this already as a out of the
Well, like I
box.
said, it
Yeah.
is truly just a working,
Yeah.
everything's at one place right now.
Thank you.
It's very helpful.
So then question 2, then how do state agencies evaluate the impact of water resources on proposed new uses? The language here is a little bit strange. I mean, how do agencies evaluate the impact of water resources? What I'm assuming that means is, how do they evaluate the impact of new
Proposed
uses on
water
water
resources.
resources, right? So
I read it that way. as
Yeah.
well.
To be fair, we were asked these questions by non-technical people.
That's okay,
on the
yeah.
County
Yeah.
commission. Who are doing their best to think through what they want to know without being.
Yeah. So just to be clear about the answer, I think, state agencies, the main things, again, what I see is state authority for Safe Drinking Water Act and Clean Water Act with the consent and sign off of EPA Region 3 in Philly. That's the big mechanism. Now this is where there are, like your point about the federal standards on water contamination. So, the NPDES program under the Clean Water Act is the major vehicle for discharge into waters of the US. And there's a whole, litany of things there that we can cite. And that's relevant. I mean, that involves, in terms of uses, this is designated uses of water bodies, not designated uses of the water, but designated uses of the water bodies. So streams are listed as, category A, drinking water supply, category B, recreational use, category C, aquatic life. And these are Clean Water Act, pieces that people can Google up. But that's the big one. There's also an interesting part of this that I think gets little attention. It's the anti-degradation standard, anti-deg standard under the Clean Water Act, that basically, no matter what contaminants you put into a water body of the US, you can't change the use of that water body. You can't diminish it from a useful to not useful. And there's been all sorts of debate about that. And anyway, but those are the big hammers as far as I see it. And I guess the additional one is the groundwater protection rule, which is a state code that comes into play, that has some provisions with respect to requiring the demonstration of that activities will not exceed groundwater standards, and that there's control for contaminant migration. And that's CSR, it's 47 CSR 58, I believe. So those are the big ones in my mind. Is there anything missing, or is that off base?
No,
Well, again, I cover from a different religion or with other states.
Hmm.
And for me, my thought process typically is service water development.
Mhm. So we could combine these frameworks like the national, but state authority is the big deal. Yeah.
And I think it would be helpful in our presentation. Commissioner Heffestay really, what is it? I'd say
flow chart.
flow chart.
Flow
Thank
chart.
you. It's like, what am I thinking?
Yeah.
Really
Mhm.
like, so I think for him, and when we're presenting it, would be helpful to have like the federal to state to local and to kind of
Hmm.
explain how that all trickles down. That I think that would be.
I agree
helpful
with
to
that, and I was also gonna recommend that
Mm-hmm.
mainly because when we talk about state agencies,
Mhm.
there's so many players on the board here.
Yeah.
So like I just very quickly was wondering who enforces 47 CSR 58, and it is the DEP. So obviously you have your DEP that's going to have a large regulatory role as well as advisory role when it comes to water. And then you also have the Department of Health, but underneath of the Department of Health, I would recommend you also add a flow chart item that underneath of that, you have the environmental engineering division that's going to deal with your municipal and large scale water supply. And then you have where I'm at, which is the environmental health services that deals with your privatized water well sampling, geological wells, things like that at the much more local level. So there's all these different agencies. One of the things I can tell you from firsthand experience is we don't talk to each other. So we don't know what they do. They don't know what I do. So compiling all of that information will be really helpful, I think, in one place.
Could you add a little divot about what
Yeah.
those two, what the health department and the bifurcation? Just
And
so-
I think that would be helpful just to add, maybe even in question one, like when you go to revise your drafts, I might add a little note about, because it asks specifically about how do state agencies
Yeah.
define? It's also possible that depending on what CSR you pull from, you may get different definitions, depending upon so the legislative, document. what do you call
Oh,
it? The actual piece of legislation that the state agency is responsible for enforcing.
Okay.
So let's say, I work under the Department of Health CSRs, which is usually the public health section 16 dash blah, blah, blah. This one is 47, which I'm assuming is where the DEP environmental ones are, that kind of place. So totally different section of the West Virginia code. So if we could break that out and be like, here is state agency 101.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
That's a
how
great
that
idea.
works and who does which piece of it, because groundwater might be over here, but private water might be over here. If that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Did you say the same thing for DEP with their
Yeah,
divisions?
and then DEP is like their own bubble,
of
because
wastewater
at least
and-
with municipality water and with private water, we're under the same umbrella, so we kind of talk to each other, and then there's the DEP they're out there. I don't know what they do. Because the DEP is essentially, they work under the federal level more so than they do the state. So they're more responsible for EPA, implementing EPA regulation at the state level. So they would have a much higher understanding of environmental
So
regulation.
they don't typically work with local health departments or,
Generally, no.
okay.
I mean, I have contacts with the DP at the local Romney office for when I refer complaints.
Hmm.
So I mean, I could probably reach out, and if that's something we ever need, I can get someone here to answer that from that perspective. But generally, we don't really overlap much at all.
The county commission has reached out to DEP to have a member appointed.
That would be really helpful.
We
That would be
had-
helpful, but I don't think we have a local office for DEP in our area, so it would be potentially difficult.
They travel to get here.
Yeah.
DEP does.
Unless we would be able to confirm attendance via Zoom.
So we had a lot of interaction with the Potomac Basin Coordinator, but I don't know, that's more on the Chesapeake Basin than on the state level enforcing EPA regulations, backstopping
Mhm.
EPA. And I think it's the Division of Wastewater is where we would be looking for.
Yeah, that is the DEP Division of Water and Waste Management. They're changing the name all the time, but that's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Today.
They were at the February meeting when President Mashi had written to them about asking them to pay for the water study.
Yeah. Yep.
So there were two individuals that talked about that. They also talked about the voluntary remediation that had gone on approximate to the proposed Midway bottling plant. That was from the sock company. Well, not from the sock company, from the Kodak.
Yeah.
There's also a sock company.
Well, and Mill prior to.
Well, mill prior. So, let me contain all that thought. The thought is that it'd be good to have a contact here with the DEP on the Division of Waste Management and the point of that to do would be to look at the flow chart specifically of what they do, what lane they're in to answer these questions
Yeah.
to the county commission, who does what at what level, what state
And-
agency.
Right, and when you're looking at, then when the commission's looking at it, it would be really much easier for them to understand the big picture,
Mhm.
looking back,
Mhm.
as to how they interrelate with each other.
Yeah. Alexis, are you willing to give that a first run? Compiling a
Yeah.
conceptual
Yeah.
framework? That'd be
The
awesome.
flow chart.
And I will add to it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm sure we
yeah.
can all plug in our expertise here and there. Great.
Great, good idea. Okay.
That's why you have someone like me here, because I'm like, I need to see how it all,
Yeah.
the layman.
That's good.
The thing about this overall is, as we look at it and it's quickly to do and get it out, it's a dynamic document because it can change over time. So there's got to be a look. There's a thought that once you put it out there, it can quickly become dated
Mhm.
or needs to be changed. So, for instance, to say what after the Elks River 2014 spill, the DEP was taken off the tanks, correct? And the DH, Department of Health and Resources, became, did they, for those above ground storage tank?
The storage tank rule went into effect, and I know that it affected me, but I don't know off the top of my head what it did exactly.
Probably that
like,
other
word for
petition.
word. But yes, it did make the change that any septic holding tank is now under us, but we track it for the DEP, and then we basically let them know how many we did.
But they don't really talk to you, so it's like something.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe this flow chart would be helpful, like,
Isn't it also to above ground storage tank, or that's back with the DEP? Because initially
Mhm.
it got moved.
Yeah, and there was legislation that was pending to repeal that, but I believe that it didn't pass. At least I have not been notified that any changes have been made at this time.
Yeah, that's a great point. What's most salient for our purposes might be the zone of critical concern and the
Yeah.
zone of peripheral concern,
Mhm.
which are essentially, you can map, these are available online right now. We can look at Jefferson County and map out.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, we could do that. And it might change the kind of criteria that one might consider within or in that zone or outside of it,
Does everyone know what that is?
No.
Okay.
So after the Elks River spill, the legislation was put in, and then West Virginia Rivers was very involved in it. The Water Advisory Committee is that the public water supplies need to have something known as a zone of critical contamination, so you probably know this better than I do. What is a zone? Where are the storage tanks that could impact the drinking water intake? And those need to be, as part of their compliance with this regulation, every municipal or public water supply needs to identify potential contaminants in the zone of critical concern. So farmers with tanks of a certain size of fertilizing, and then you could speak to that, they need to report. Now, some of this is also confidential information because you don't want to send a terrorist out to blow up a fertilizer tank. And the other thing is they also have backups, or there you go.
So this is a rough version, just to give you just a
Wow.
cartoonish version of the zone of critical concern, the zone of
Mhm.
peripheral concern that are defined by this bill. And that could be useful for us. I mean, we have to also be cognizant of the fact that 90% of the action is underground. It's all groundwater. And so the surface water management, important, but not the whole story. But still, you can see that big sections of the main stem Potomac, but also some important tributaries that are feeding into the Shenandoah and Potomac are identified in this statute as a higher protections.
Is one of those along the Opequon or no?
The Opequon does show up here a little bit, not the entirety.
And is that from the DEP's website?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And this is a web map. I'll make a note to send this out to the committee.
Because I just, like, ours are reported via coordinates. We just track the coordinates and provide that information in like a
Uh-huh.
spreadsheet. But I'm not differentiating what type of item it is that like is actually physically being put into the ground. So what I mean by that is it probably pops up as like a dot on that map, but does it tell you what type of,
If I may have to do my job. Got 30 minutes left.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so we can move on. I'll follow up. I'll send you to explore it.
Okay. We were at question 2. I think we've gotten through
Good.
that for
Yep.
3 or 4. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yep.
Woo-hoo, give you the train. What scientific terms, factors, and parameters do state agents use for water resource quantity monitoring?
So I ran through a list that, and again, I tend to read these things specifically, and I ran through this. Parameters. At the bottom of the question.
Say groundwater, the core parameters are.
Mhm. Could we have one of you kind of explain to us non-technical folks what like
Let me think, 'cause I'm just.
transmissivity
Yeah.
and storativity is that? I have no idea what that means.
So let's see, let me get the notes here. Yeah, and this is where I think the discernment on like what's going to be useful for the county,
Yeah.
because we could go through like a groundwater 101, like, class, but I don't know if that's going to be particularly useful.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me get this. Page. Right.
Transmissivity is really focused on recharge.
Yeah, think about like how porous is the underground, are the features? How much, it's like, think Swiss cheese, how big are the holes? Kind of, that's the question of transmissivity. Hydraulic head basically refers to the idea of pressure from the weight of water that moves things by just pressure.
Okay.
It's related to this idea of what we call hydrostatic pumps. So in other words, things are connected underground through the movement of water, but they're also connected underground by the pressure. If you think about like a bunch of blocks lined up, if you move the first block, the next block moves, the last block moves. And that's how pressure changes things. That's why it matters underground. And that's why an impact at one point in the landscape might have a distant effect that's surprising.
How far it travels.
Yeah, sometimes you can have distant effects through that pressure. Anyway, so that's just a concept of groundwater hydrology. The terms that I flagged for like how you typically think of the surface water basic parameters, there's just there's 3 main approaches that I see, there are flow duration curves, there's the base flow index, and then there are historical records. Historical records, we use those to generate things like the 7Q10, which is a very handy index. It's defined as the lowest. Now, this is looking at historical data. And Mary, this gets to your point of what do we have in Jefferson County?
Yeah, my take on this question
Yeah.
was like, explain to me like I'm five, like give me a chart that's got these terms, but also like a one sentence like
Uh-huh.
definition, so that if I were to pull up like
Uh-huh.
the 1999, which doesn't exist, I'm just pulling this out, 1999 geological study that we did. And I'm reading through and I'm like trying to understand, like, can I like get out my little water thesaurus and like, or thesaurus dictionary and like
There are
define
key
these
terms,
really
yeah, on the
quick?
left,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Like,
That's a good way to think
so
about
like
it.
the term list is good, but I feel like maybe just like a quick definition,
Mhm.
like as like a handout that we could give the
Also-
county.
Cliff notes.
We wean the list down to things that are, it's my list, but still needs to be weaned down. Practical and usable versus scientific.
Yeah.
What's usable for governing bodies, what's usable for population as a whole.
Like maybe we wanted to cite a groundwater study that was done at the federal level and show the results of that to the county commission. That way they have like a key term list and definitions to reference, you know, so they don't have to constantly be like, wait, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean?
I think USGS has it in some of their studies.
Well,
They have,
yeah.
you know, terms. I'll look at that. They might have done one for that. Okay, so, we will look at making that, easy
Mhm.
for a eighth grader to understand.
Mhm.
And I was pulling up on our comprehensive plan of 2045, we had a kind of almost an appendix that was referenced throughout terms and definitions. So if
Okay.
there's,
Oh,
so maybe we could kind of apply that same methodology. And I think they laid it out, our plan department laid it out really well. So these terms that were kind of constantly coming up, we
Mhm.
could earmark it to a certain page where they could have a definition at the end.
Like an annex to
Mhm.
the presentation or like the packet that we
Yeah.
provide to you
Yeah.
guys. And it's like, hey, on page whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, or it could be a separate document, like, oh, here, there's the terms and definitions page, you know, next to you. It's attached, but we don't even have it stapled together or something.
Mhm.
We have like concept plans. Actually, one of the definitions is connectivity, cluster subdivision, stuff like that.
So that seems like a follow-up. We could do that. Makes sense. It's a good edit. And then the other is, I think it helps to be very practical about what Jefferson County has to offer and where we're flying blind a little bit. Maybe CTUB has tools out here that we could incorporate to this too. I'd love to hear about it because USGS has 2 active surface water monitoring sites that are, you know, somewhat useful for us, but not a whole lot in my view. The Main Potomac dynamics are not really tracking what we see underground in karst terrain here. Because the basin for the Potomac is just so much bigger and influenced by so many other things. It may be correlated somewhat, but I don't know how useful it is. Same thing on the Shenandoah. But that might be more relevant for because CTUB's pulling water from the main stem Shen, right? Isn't that
Correct, yes.
So maybe the tie-in at the Millville gauge
I would
has more
even
relevance.
define karst, honestly. I would even start at like
Okay.
that level. What does that mean for them? Add that to the list, because
Okay.
I don't think it's on the list, but because that makes a big difference.
Defining critical terms. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe this is this place for this, maybe not, but in terms of what scientific terms, factors, and parameters do state agencies use for, I mean, maybe this isn't the right place for it, but I just want to make it clear that we have 2 surface water sites maintained by USGS in real time. They're online, great. And so you can use those to estimate a lot of things in terms of, are we in drought? Like what's the flow availability compared to historic years and all that stuff. But the other piece, and this might be more relevant, is the groundwater monitoring wells in Jefferson County. We've got a site at the USGS lab at Kearneysville, Eastern Ecological Science Center, groundwater, and we're talking about water table level monitoring, right? So we're looking really at in a well, how high is the water level? And then we have a site in Rocky Marsh Run at the Freshwater Institute. And those are our big inferences on what the groundwater level is doing. That's super important. But I also note here in my draft that there's inference from Clark County too. I mean, we're connected to Clark County water and we're also connected to Berkeley County water. So we could pull data from those gauges. I think that could inform. Bunker Hill has a water level monitoring. That's all USGS. So maybe there's something. Bunker Hill.
Bunker Hill was.
Yeah, so those are our neighboring kind of gauges, which, you know, oh, by the way, here's a little factoid. The GS gauge at Kearneysville right now shows that the current conditions are within the long-term median. So we've bounced back to sort of average groundwater levels in the Kearneysville site. But the Rocky Marsh site, interestingly, is still at its 5% of historic levels. So it's
Blows.
low. It's only 95% of the historic observations are above what we see right now for this time of the year at that site. That's what it means. And that's important, but you know, that's going to change. Anyway, that's what we're dealing with in terms of what's available.
You did a presentation for us, though. I think we can pull some of those.
We can
links.
grab those, yeah.
Grab those
Mhm.
links.
And this is probably, I don't know if it's a double question or not, but the USDA, they have a GIS I use, you know, when I'm looking at the soil classifications. I think it's like, is it 8 levels that they have? And they are able to, you can go in on a property or a whole entire area and understand what those ratings are, whether it's like rocky conditions, karst conditions, essentially, what the slope level. And so I use that in my profession, especially if I'm appraising farms or conservation areas, because what the likely development potential is, and they'll know the slope of terrain and
Interesting.
the likely development because of the terrain.
That comes from the old USGS.
Is that on there as well?
Yeah, that's where they originated in the historic USGS soils.
Have you guys seen this? Do you ever use this? It's USDA. It's like you
Yeah.
search and then you can look for water or non-water. Condition.
I've never used the USDA one.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
I don't know if. I
And
don't know
to
which
answer
one's
your
better.
question, Van, I believe we monitor the level at our intake.
Okay.
But quality, we don't monitor groundwater quality.
Okay.
Mhm.
But you are looking at water table height.
I believe we're looking at the surface intake.
Surface.
Yeah, so we're
Okay.
talking about the river depth.
That's good to know. I mean, it's public, I suppose, because of public utility.
I mean, we are a public utility. I don't think that it's like on our website or anything, but I can confirm that with you
Yeah.
guys. This is me speaking off the top of my head right now, but I can confirm that with our water operator. But
Yeah.
I know that they have a gauge down there that they can kind of keep an eye on that river level.
It might be totally correlated though with the Millville USGS.
It
water.
could be,
It probably,
yes.
probably,
Yeah, I
which
need
is
to
fine.
confirm that. Yep.
Another thing that should be on our radar is that there is an innovative approach the USGS is employing in Elks Run right now, which is, of course, the drinking water supply for Harper Story Boulevard. And they're using a trail camera to basically build a hydrograph.
Interesting.
It's real low tech in a way, and it's smart, and it's using machine learning methods actually. And we're deploying this. Yesterday, I was out in Tucker County setting up a similar system for a series of reservoirs that are municipal water supplies for Davis, and et cetera. And so I think that is a scalable model that we could track water availability in surface waters using this new approach. So I also included
What do they put a yardstick in the ground and a trail camera on it?
It's even simpler than that. It's
Yeah.
just a trail camera that snaps images of the stream, because what happens is a boulder doesn't move, but the water level moves.
Oh, okay.
And you feed those into a machine learning
AI
model,
question. Oh, interesting.
and you're like,
You
predict
don't have to put the
this.
yardstick in.
No, it's natural features.
Each
And
hour uses a bottle of water.
yes.
Great.
wow.
Okay, I think, can we rock on to the last question? Last 2 questions. yeah.
Yeah.
I think we touched on this a little bit. What other scientific terms, the factors, parameters can we use as it considers regulations for monitoring? Terms?
Well, for question 4, there's a question about specific karst terrain. My main observation here is that the main tool that you're going to get from a consultant or other, in terms of best practice, what to expect, it's USGS's MODFLOW, MADFLOW.
The mod flow.
MODFLOW is
We should
the
explain that.
great 3-dimensional it's the workhorse of groundwater modeling in the US and globally, I think. And it's just very powerful. It's very well established. However, it's not appropriate for karst. And we need to be not explicit about this. In karst terrain, there are specific modifications to that model that are required. And we've seen examples where those have not been implemented, and therefore the inferences are unreliable. Yeah. So that's just a simple point on that. Are there other ideas for this car specific kind of methods?
No.
Better returns to this question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have any input on that one, so I'll take your input on that then.
So it's just, yeah.
That.
Yeah. It's somewhat, it's tempting just to use the out of the box model because you can knock out a result real quick, but
It won't
low
be
confidence, it's a low confidence
Yeah.
result. I think we should be explicit about that.
Mhm.
Question 5, we're approaching question 5. I find this question, right off the bat, does the commission consider regulations for monitoring the adequacy of water resources? Is the commission monitor adequacy of water resources in the planning commission? Does it have the authority to do? I'm sorry?
It could be the county commission.
Correct,
They would
so-
have to separate.
Good.
Should is it consider regulations, but it notes that the commission would be monitoring the adequacy of water resources.
So I
To-
read that, should the commission use as it considers regulation? What should the county commission use when it's going through the process of
A property
developing?
regulation, I'm sorry, developing a regulation to,
I think Mr. Kozar would help us answer that too.
And this question is this is a catch-all for anything we've missed. So is there anything we've missed?
I mean,
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
again, you can't make it too scientific. So,
yeah. I think
But this would be a good place if we do in our review, see, key concept. This is where it should go, but I don't have anything else to add for that right now.
Mhm.
I think it's, one of the things is we did put in there zone of influence. Would zone of influence be in something like this? Monitoring the adequacy?
let's be careful not to,
Overdo it.
let's think of this in terms of Pareto's principle, 80-20. We've covered the 80 above, this is the
Yeah.
20.
Okay,
If we cover the important things and keep them relatively simple, you can be very fine later if necessary,
Yeah.
and if it needs to be somewhere, it should be up in the important.
I think so.
Maybe one thing that's a challenge in this context, but it's relevant, that we haven't really mentioned is that risk analysis always starts with a set of assumptions. And those assumptions, we've seen traps where people are assuming that prior conditions predict future conditions. That's the stationarity assumption, and a lot of modeling and forecasting for rivers, et cetera. And unfortunately, that's falling apart because the past doesn't predict the future as well. Because we are getting into unparalleled, times. So our 100-year flood happens more than 100
Yeah, I was gonna
years.
say, our 10 years happen every year. so.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure exactly what to do with that, except that I would advise towards increasing or like expanding the scope of how we calibrate these models. And that gets very technical into like model building and stuff, and but I guess the point is weight extreme events or consider extreme events in the planning or the criteria that'll be used for evaluation. Yeah. And we can update that with a little note there, I suppose. It's sort of destabilizing, quite frankly, to last 3 years. You've seen this as a water manager, drought on drought on drought. It's not normal, but we
It is
do
the new normal.
It's like, what is normal?
Yeah,
Exactly.
because you don't have the recharge ability and then you're compounding it
Yeah.
every year.
Be fair, you're making assumptions on 100-year storms at 150.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, yep. But I think that maybe that's a concept for this question 5, I think it's best practices to recognize that. So I could add an amendment to my notes here very simply. Okay. Risk. Okay.
Thanks for sending the DEP GIS map. This is helpful. The resource management plan.
Yeah, there's good stuff in there. Okay, so anything else for question 5? Then the last one is sustainable yield evaluation. What are people's thoughts about this?
Well, I think you put it right there in the last sentence of the first paragraph, EPA guidance. Start with. I think EPA guidance is the start, and then with the concept of sustainable yield. Um, I would start this paragraph with the last sentence. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. And then the concept of is typically interpreted amount of water withdrawn from a aquifer over the long term without causing unacceptable impacts. Average recharge, and that goes into the 80-20. We got 80 of it up ahead, so. Best practice evaluate, and I think this is good when I read it.
There's been some debate in the scientific interpretation about what constitutes sustainable, how that, the current term is loaded a little bit, sustainable yield. Some people have functionally interpreted that to mean recharge.
Find sustainable, yeah. like,
Yeah, so people have just,
Many different ways you can look at that.
from a practical perspective, just said, let's call it average recharge rate, but it's not, it's not really the same thing. I mean, for example, I think it's fair to say that agricultural supplies and wetlands that are very much contingent on that skimming the water table level is more relevant. It's like, that's the highest sensitivity. That's where your springs are. That's where all the connectivity to surface water features happens. All the action happens at that water table level. And, we want to avoid the trap of just defining that as recharge equals sustainable yield. It's not the same thing. So. But I'd wait till the ag section to really go into that piece of the puzzle, and
Mhm.
just flesh it out there.
So how is sustainable yield evaluation affected by karst topography? We need a predictive groundwater flow model analysis
Yeah, and I
with
would,
a modified mod.
right, so I want to be, I would look forward to talking to Mark Kozar and others and really getting a better understanding of what they can produce, because when we look at the Leetown case study, I think that's the Cadillac version.
Oh, it is.
I think
Right.
that's high confidence and it's detailed site-specific work. I'm concerned that as we zoom out and develop a more generic tool that's relevant for more places that are, it's very clearly, and I think Kozar would support this too, the confidence intervals widen out. And so our inference power is diminished there. And that's just the nature of the beast. Yeah, I mean, but I think this is the answer to that question. In karst terrain, there's a necessity for site-specific evaluation that's more than a desktop exercise.
Yes.
And that's where it gets costly and,
Took them 4 years,
yeah, and
4
and big
Yeah.
bucks.
big bucks, and the dedicated team.
Yeah.
of hydrogeologists who were on
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
Is there any technological changes to make it easier now than it did in 2000, or no, I guess that was the 1991 study, right? 88 to
Hmm.
91.
That's a great question. I believe Kozar would point to the fact that Jefferson County is probably one of the most well-studied
Counties.
regions for this kind of, so if we can't build anything from that starting point, then, we're in trouble. But there is a burden of proof that there's like a threshold, an activation level for confidence in, to what extent can all the existing data be meaningfully applied for a predictive tool that would be relevant anywhere? I mean, I'd be concerned about, well, let's say this, we started from the point of the 2012 county level assessment did identify some regional structure in Jefferson County, but that's a very broad brush starting point, the west, central, and eastern regions. I wouldn't feel comfortable applying, that's the big buckets that just not, I don't think that's meaningful. So then the question is, we have to, I guess, consider like, what is the right quote unquote spatial scale for these kind of tools? And that's something that Kozar could help us develop.
There's so much underground fracturing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You can't see it.
totally. And I don't want to throw my hands and say it's complicated, even though that's true. I mean, we know that the west side of the county, that thrust fault drives water from south to north rapidly. It's like a pipe system, nature's pipe system that moves water. So, for example, massive extraction of groundwater in the Summit Point area could have ripple effects that extend northward in a massive way through that fractured rock system. And so we can be confident about the starting point, but this is where we need the collaboration of USGS and other real experts out there.
I think the answer is it's complicated.
Yes, it is.
But this is how do people do it? How do developers do it? How
Right.
do county planners make certain it's not affecting others?
Mhm.
I think you could note evaluation affected by karst topography. You could cite the standard of Leetown of this is how this was determined. The Leetown's USGS study.
Mhm.
This was one study done that. But I don't want the county to think that every developer is going to spend 4 years or every
Yeah.
no, I would say every developer, I don't want to put it that way. It's unrealistic is what Mark told me. It's unrealistic to ask someone to do a 4-year study at this level.
Mhm.
How do you do it? How do you do a realistic study?
Well,
mean,
I think what we're talking about on this board are two different things at the same time. We're talking about groundwater in the county at a macro level
Mhm.
often, but then we're also talking about groundwater protection at a micro level. And at some point, these two have to be merged, because in all honesty, this information is of no value to the county commission. Without separating those two, and then giving them a chance to act on it, either at the macro level or the micro level. Macro level might be additional study or just a countywide moratorium on some sort of development, which is not gonna happen. So then we also have to focus back on the micro level of what can we do on these smaller scales, and then what can the farms also do to actually impact water. I'm not gonna say groundwater, but surface water, which is already somewhat done on an individual basis, because nobody's gonna own the entire aquifer from an effort point,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that mine is like on the planning scale, it's like maybe additional guidance there, or like we could flesh that out, perhaps that whole, and the question one started with a list of different kinds of development scenarios. And maybe each one of those has like a kind of conceptual footprint, and that could help us be a little more concrete about those scenarios. But I think it's fair that, a 4-year effort and the detailed and that kind of the lift of that Leetown example, like, yeah, it would be ideal everywhere. And it's going to take planners and the planning commission to flesh out what the feasible from the not feasible. I'm just here to provide like high confidence and low confidence inferences, and y'all, and then the real world planning commission ordinance world kicks in. And I respect that, but it's just not the same thing as what we're doing here.
We just appointed a new commissioner who's a certified planner.
Okay,
So he might also be able to lend some expertise too when
That's
we're
cool.
translating this into policy.
yeah.
Well, I think you're right. The primary impact evaluation tools are quality-based, not quantity-based.
Mhm. Yeah. The nexus is though the concentration of contaminants through, less water equals more concentration. And that's a water quality standard nexus. And that is, it's not a direct line, but it's an indirect line. It's relevant. Yeah. Yeah. I feel good about this, moving forward, we're making progress here. The second set of questions, are there other major observations for that second batch or anything else that we missed?
Missed anything?
I mean,
I'm gonna try to do this flow chart thing and I'll come back to you.
It's a lot to take.
that would be cool. Actually, that would be a contribution.
Yeah.
Take in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Let me just talk about next steps. I think if I've captured all the changes to part one, Roman number one, I can run it through AI and try to do just assignments, do a sort of an executive and then a longer. We're looking for a flow chart. And then can we circulate an updated draft on Roman numeral two? I don't know that we did that many changes to Roman numeral two.
I have some minor notes I'll update and I will send that.
If we can get that to me, I'll run my AI since I'm learning it.
Yeah.
It's really.
And I'm happy to help you. That's maybe where I can come in to put things in a PowerPoint form.
Okay, great.
I'm not the technical person, but Daniel will attest, I can make
you were
things.
very good at the
Yes.
Canva.
Yes, I can use Canva.
And I do,
Okay.
We have some side projects we're working on.
and definitely makes sense to, let machine learning compress, but I do want to review what comes out of that pipe because,
Sure, it's
trust
not
me,
gonna go anywhere. Come to your.
we want to see it. Yeah.
I mean, push gonna shove, Mary, we're gonna have to boil all this down to, I'm gonna take, yes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which may be ideal in separating out the questions, going 10 minutes for these two. Let's do this 10.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, and then have a case study applied at the end.
Case study.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to leave some room for questions.
And also on my to-do list, I will have a draft memo framed from this body to the county commission for our review, and it'll be in your packet for the next meeting.
Okay.
It's a draft.
Let's see, I just put mine away. Do we, technical questions, number one, preliminary discussion.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at it too.
Can we move on to new business quickly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Any new business? Didn't have anything on the agenda. Member comment?
I would suggest that our old business is enough to fill the agenda, that hopefully we don't have much new business. I have added. I think the schedule is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's very valuable.
Yep.
If there's no other business, can we entertain a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Hi, who did our second?
Second?
I think you seconded, right?
You did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
Mary,
I
okay,
seconded.
okay, sorry. I was writing, I didn't see.
This was a really productive meeting.
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate you. Yeah.
we're rolling now.
I know. Love all the
Well, you're
expertise on
breaking
this
stuff.
table.
So you're gonna get.
I'll get the speaker.
Awesome. Thanks.
And meanwhile, we can circulate these documents as well. It would be good if,
See things from me.
it would be good if I put these, like, sort of a draft in front of the speaker as well, to take a look at it.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, not a
Draft
draft, but,
PowerPoint?
we could show him what we're thinking about, would you like him to see the summary, or would you have him opine on where we are so far? And he's looked at the questions.
Would you want to have a draft PowerPoint before, or would you want to just go through in Word form?
Maybe I'll go through the executive form, so this is what we're looking at, and just get his 30,000 foot view.
Yeah.
I think it only would help us think through things, so.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
Are we missing something or is
Yeah.
there something you should
Way
think,
off base.
think we should think about?
Yeah.
So,
Well, we're lucky to have resource people like that in the neck of the woods here.
Mhm.
yeah, I think he's gonna be here for most of this year and then
He's
He
been making
delayed-
noise about retirement though for 20 years. I know, I'm
he's
gonna.
been
tease him
delaying
about
his
that.
retirement because he wants to do the predictive groundwater model really badly.
All right, so the plan is in October to have.
I think so. Yeah, and let me look at their interim schedule, make sure it lines up with us. Hey, maybe-
Yes. It'll be
Thanks,
baby
Lydia.
time.
Yeah.
Letting me know.
Maybe I can sneak in.
If you wanna- Yeah,
I
if
get a
you want to be on
babysitter.
Zoom, you could always,
True.
yeah.
Okay.
in a better place thinking you're.
I'll just mute so you don't hear the crying in the background.
You'll regret it at the time. When you never went. Lack of sleep will make you crack.
My sister just had her baby a couple days ago.
Aw,
Oh, wow. My poor daughter was. My poor daughter was.
that's exciting.
The two little ones.
Thank you all.
Oh, my.
Thank you.
It wasn't even that bad for me.
I was working construction at the time, so I was getting up early.
Oh.
And I couldn't feed the kid anyway. She.
Well, have fun with that. Thanks
Yes,
for your work.
thank you.
Updates come through. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, tomorrow.
Circle back on like, here's tomorrow, you know, do like a round robin.
Email.